Right, Danny, club courts, and as I understand it, this is your major challenge, kind of after the event, shall we say, yeah?
Yeah, correct on both fronts. So where we are at the moment is the club courts, and then in a couple of weeks' time we have the 1,500 seater stadium built exactly on these courts here.
Okay.
And then the biggest challenge is once that comes down and this whole site is returned back to EBC essentially, we've got 11 days to get everything ready for the county finals, because this whole area that we're standing on ends up being for catering, hospitality.
Okay.
Big screen over to your right goes over there. There's a public realm, and of course that ends up being with a lot of challenges.
I bet it does,
considering
yeah.
I don't let people walk on it.
No, as I say, you're quite precious and I'm quite honoured to be standing on it. But that sounds like trauma for the turf. What do you do to recover from that?
Me personally? Or the turf?
Yeah, well, there's two issues there, and we'll get onto that in a bit, I think.
I think the reality is this: we've tried mitigating that risk through using things like Terraplast, temporary flooring. We've tried looking at preventatives with fungicides. We've looked at doing a pre-renovation so that when you lose something, that hopefully it will regenerate the new season. The reality is, once you cover something for over 7 days, it's dead. There's no coming back from it, and this is up for about 3 weeks.
Oh, crops, okay.
So there's no chance of you getting it back. And as this whole area is open, as I said, to catering, there's picnics, there's it's a bit of a mess. The main issue is to try and get it clean as quick as we can, and the number one thing is water. That is the one thing we found makes, and I think what it does, in my view at the moment, is all that water is reinvigorating all the microbiology in there. It's getting things active, it's releasing locked up nutrients. We then clean up, we put some new seed on, we get some top soil, and we don't top dress it as such, so we just give it a light dusting, and then we just literally hand it back over to Mother Nature and say, please help.
So when you say clear up, is there a lot of debris on the site?
What amazes people is we've invested in a trail behind magnet, because the debris, the metal that we get, I mean, you can see behind us we've got mowers up and down. You only need a 1 penny piece. It takes the mower out, you're having it reground. There's a cost to that. Yeah. It's a huge cost and a loss in time. So we're trying to protect the asset of the machine, and we're trying to get things working. So to invest in a magnet, clear it all up, braze everything off, and then start hoovering. Very similar to what you'd see in the world of football. We apply here, and then we hopefully try and get it back to where we are now.
So would I be right in suspecting that the worst of it is where the stand is? This isn't great, but that's really the trauma centre down there, yeah?
Yeah, this is really difficult because it's essentially dead. This just to the right of you, the whole area there where you have deck chairs and that. So what we find that becomes a real issue is when you're sitting on a deck chair, obviously there's 4 points of pressure that are under an inch square on each thing. So it doesn't take a lot of weight to then travel to the pressure of ½ an inch squared, and it starts creating little pockets, if you like, pitch marks.
Yeah.
So when you're then trying to play county level tennis and you need a perfect bounce, lots of little holes don't really help, and that's where these courts, the three courts that will be essentially to your right, they've got to come back. We worry for them, and the 4 this side just behind us, they're dead, and then we've got to get them ready for the what's known as the seniors, the over 35s.
And how long a turnaround do you get from stand coming down to being ready for the seniors?
For the veterans, seniors, I think we've got this year because the calendar's moved, so
Yeah.
just forgive me. So from stand coming down, I think we have about 6 weeks. I think
Okay.
it's 6 weeks from stand down to play. But again, to try and mitigate any issues there, we also have 2 off-sites
Right.
with 7 courts on there. So should we fail in our attempt, we're always able to provide because we have grass courts off-site.
Okay, so that to me seems like you're getting back in action relatively rapidly, you know, to the damage that's done.
Yeah, it's to be honest with you, the damage is done, it's gone.
Right.
It's end of season. The reason it's end of season for them courts is because everywhere else is progressing at such a rapid rate. If you make one area good, all it does is accentuate another area that isn't of the same standard. So it has the appearance that you're doing this.
Right.
You're just making things worse. And there is a view of, look, can we increase our revenue on this area instead of just, if you like, it being a drain financially on this asset?
You said you'd looked at ways of overcoming it, renovation before the actual stand goes up, putting in some Terraplast. Have you ever looked at doing something like a hybrid?
Yes, simple answer. So back in, it was the end of 2016 season, I approached CIS and was looking at that whole area, stitching. At the time it hadn't been done on a tennis court before, and it was, we know from the world of football exactly the benefits. Them guys have done enough data collection for us to talk to, which we were, and it was, this can work and it should work. But trying to get the approval to essentially bury plastic in an area that's been here since the 1800s, and you're an elected member, you've got to then say that, look, there's a political. So I understand their cautious approach to saying to me no.
I think you're in a very different position to any other grounds person, grounds manager that is dealing with a world profile tournament, and I know is that you're working for a local authority, and then that comes with all the politics that obviously surrounds that. So that must make your job a little bit tougher, or quite a lot tougher, I would say.
It's nice to hear you say that, because to be fair, it is challenging, because ultimately as a local authority they have pressures on housing, they have pressures in hospitals, they then have elected members running the authority, and then I come along and say I've got a piece of grass that needs looking after. So it becomes a real delicate balancing act, because we're a venue provider. So the event of the international, the event of the count, they come in with their expectations. So in the nicest way, from a accounting side of things, I'm a draw, because I come in saying I want more. The income revenue isn't direct. So I have the challenge of trying to quantify what I'm bringing in. But what actually is brought in by this event is worldwide exposure. It's putting Eastbourne on the map. It's getting the restaurants full because there's X amount of 1,000 people per day. And that's what makes a difference. But it's hard to correlate that local economy influx against what we're trying to ask for.
Do you have a little bit of a, I mean, do the town as a whole love the tennis, support it, or do they see it as, oh God, it's tennis time, so you know the town's going to be flooded?
Do you know, it's a real interesting question, that one, because you find that the event itself is received better from everybody outside of Eastbourne as a collective mass than it is those that are within it. And that's probably true to most things. I'm sure if you spoke to most events, the neighbours don't like it.
Unless you own a restaurant, a bar or a hotel.
Then, but then there's an argument that would say, and they would be right in saying it, well, we're a seaside resort, they should be full anyway in June. My argument is, you know, look, at the end of the day, if you've got 8,500 people in a certain area every day for a certain length of time, they've got to go somewhere. So if that's 8,500 more than you would have had, they're going to spend 30 quid in place A or 50 quid in place. So it has to improve the economy. And what it does do is everyone sees it as Eastbourne. And if you were trying to put a price on the marketability of having Eastbourne everywhere, you've only got to watch the All England Championship and you notice how many times they say last week at Eastbourne. Now, if you've got to put a price on what that would cost you, I'm going to say now that's going to be in the region of about 14 million in the last discussion. So the event's important to Eastbourne, more so.
What should we look at next then? Is there just one place left?
I think we'd better go to centre court.
Okay, Danny.